Hey everyone. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about reserve retirement. Specifically, I want to answer a question that was posed on a video a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago. What do you mean there are times where you don't get paid, but it counts towards retirement? So in that video, I was talking about how sometimes in the reserves you do work drills that you don't get compensated for financially, but it does benefit you in the long run. So how that works is you get 48 paid drills per fiscal year authorized. So each drill is a 4-hour period. So it comes out to 24 days, which is 2 days a month. Then you get 12 points for the 12 days of active duty you do, which is the first week of 5 days, the weekend, and then the next 5 days of the next week. And then you get 15 points just for being a reservist. And drill points correlate with one retirement point. 1 day of active duty also equates to one retirement point. So points are all the same in terms of their intrinsic value, but the way you earn them can vary. So that adds up to 75. So 75 points in a standard reserve year. All right. So if you hit 48 paid drills, which basically means you come into work every month for the 2 days, then you're capped financially. But you can still drill for points. And this can manifest in a lot of different ways. It could be doing correspondence courses. It can be working on something that's a readiness issue, dental, medical, your annual screening questionnaire, things like that. So for all intents and purposes, they're worth the same as any other point that you do getting paid, but you don't get paid for them. Now, how it works in terms of your retirement benefits, I've done a couple videos where I talked about using your reserve points to convert and calculate your retirement. Essentially, how it works is a reserve retirement is a prorated adjustment for the same exact retirement that an active duty person would get, simply taking the time that you put in and prorating what you make in retirement based off of an active duty salary. So just as a quick recap, in case you didn't see those videos, you get for active duty, you would get 50% of your highest 3 paid years monthly after 20 years, and it increases by 2.5% each year you do beyond 20. So if you do the max of 30 years, you get 75% of that pay, right? Whatever that pay is. On the reserve side, you convert your points into an amount that would be in proportion to that. So how you do that is you take the amount of points that you would earn if you were active duty for 20 years. That number is 7,300. That's 75 points per year. I'm sorry, that's 365 points per year, because you're active duty, you get a point for every day, times 20. So you have that number as your base, 7,300. You're working off of that number. So you take the 7,300 points, which is the standard 20-year Coast Guard active duty career point total that you would get. You take the amount of points that you've earned in your reserve career, and you divide that by the 7,300. All right. The number that you come up with there represents a prorated career for retirement. You take half of that number, whatever that number is, you divide that in by 2. And then whatever number you have there, that is the amount that you multiply by the average monthly salary of your highest 3 paid years in the Coast Guard. And that, whatever that number is, that's your magic number. That's your retirement pay. And whatever you calculate that as today, that number is going to be converted based on inflation in whenever you end up taking your retirement. So it's not going to be that number. That's the number in today's dollars. All right. Now, back to the question. Hopefully what I just said makes sense. It can be kind of confusing, but once you kind of understand how it works, it makes sense. Now, to the question, when there's times that you don't get paid, but it still counts for retirement, these are the situations where you are doing drills for free, essentially. You're not getting paid financially, but those points count towards that number that I talked about before, that number that you divide by 7,300. So the more points you get, however you get them, whether they're from doing readiness stuff, whether they're from your normal drills, whether they're from doing deployments, whatever, those points, they're all the same. They're all worth the same value, 1 point. So the more of those additional points you get, the higher that number is that you divide by 7,300, the higher that number is that you then divide by 2, which therefore, whatever number you come up with that you multiply by those 3 highest years, that number is going to be higher. So ipso facto, you have a better retirement the more points you get. It's important to remember that, because as you grow in your Coast Guard career, as you rank up, you're going to get more responsibilities. And the reality is that I have a lot of time taken from my personal time to do Coast Guard business at my level that I'm at now. And it does take a lot of my time. And unfortunately, I don't get compensated for all that time, but I put in points for all that time. And those points allow me to get more points during a standard year than I would otherwise. And those will pay dividends down the road, because that's a retirement number that you're going to get every month for the rest of your life. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's a lot of times you have to shift the way you look at things. It's very easy to say, "Wow, the reserves is really kicking my ass. It's making me do all this extra work on my own time, and I'm not getting compensated for all of it." Well, you will get compensated for it. It's just in a roundabout way. So it's just something to keep in mind. And also, it's something to note that a standard drill period for your paid drills, it's called IDT, is 4 hours, right? 4 hours per period. For non-paid drills, it's only 2 hours. So you actually only have to do 2-hour blocks of time outside of the office to get a full point. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So there are definitely ways to enhance your reserve retirement as you go along by finding ways to do these extra points, even if they're not for pay. Now, one other thing to keep in mind is that to advance in the Coast Guard also requires time. You can use that time that you take to study, to prepare for the tests and all the things that you have to do to advance. You can also use that time for non-paid points as well. And at the same time, by advancing, you're going to make more money, which also is going to impact your retirement. So the reserves is not for everybody. I mean, I won't lie. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but if you do decide to do it, know that there are ways to really help improve that retirement and set yourself up for a good future for you and your family. So anyway, I hope that kind of helps clear that up a little bit. I know it can definitely be confusing. I love talking about this stuff. I love helping people out with this topic. So please feel free to let me know if you have any further questions, and I'll catch up with you all again soon. Take care.